Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the New Horizon and watched the stars through the main screen. His ship had been traveling for 3 weeks now, heading toward the outer edge of human space. They were looking for new planets that humans could live on someday. Jake had been doing this job for 10 years, and he loved every minute of it. "Captain, we have something strange on our sensors," said Lieutenant Amy Foster from her station. She was the ship's science officer and very good at her job. Amy had joined the crew 2 years ago, and Jake trusted her completely. Jake walked over to look at Amy's screen. "What do you see?" "There's a ship out there, sir. It's not moving and it looks damaged. The design is nothing like any human ship I've ever seen." Commander Lisa Brooks came up behind them. She was Jake's second in command and had been with him for 5 years. Lisa was smart and brave, and the crew respected her. "Should we go take a look, Captain?" Jake thought for a moment. They were supposed to be mapping new star systems, not rescuing unknown ships. But he could not just leave someone out there who might need help. "Yes, let's go see what's happening. Amy, can you tell how big the ship is?" "It's about half the size of ours, Captain. I'm picking up some life signs, but they're very weak." The New Horizon changed course and headed toward the mystery ship. As they got closer, everyone could see it was in bad shape. There were holes in the side, and parts of it were completely destroyed. Whatever had happened to this ship, it was not good. "Captain, I'm getting a weak signal from them," said Communications Officer Roy Bennett. "It's not in any language our computers know." "Keep trying to talk to them, Roy. Lisa, get a rescue team ready. We're going over there." Dr. Peter Walsh, the ship's doctor, was already getting his medical equipment ready. He was an older man who had been a doctor for 30 years. Peter had saved many lives, and Jake knew he would do everything he could to help whoever was on that ship. 20 minutes later, Lisa led a team of 6 people onto the damaged ship. They wore special suits to protect them from the cold of space. The inside of the alien ship was dark and cold. Emergency lights blinked red, and there was a strange smell in the air. "Over here," called Sergeant Bill Carter, one of the security team members. He had found what looked like the ship's bridge. There were 5 alien creatures lying on the floor. They looked like large insects, but walked on 2 legs like humans. Their skin was a dark green color, and they had 4 arms each. "Are they alive?" Lisa asked. Peter checked each one with his medical scanner. 3 of them are still breathing, but barely. We need to get them back to our ship right away." The rescue team carefully moved the 3 living aliens to the New Horizon. Peter worked on them in the medical bay, while Jake and Lisa tried to figure out what had happened to their ship. "Captain, I think I know what attacked them," Amy said. She had been studying the damage to the alien ship. "The weapon marks match what we know about Vorthan Empire ships." Jake knew about the Vorthans. They were a powerful alien race that liked to attack and conquer other worlds. Humans had been lucky so far because the Vorthans lived far away from human space. 2 days later, one of the aliens woke up. Peter called Jake to the medical bay immediately. The alien was sitting up in bed, looking around with large, dark eyes. "Hello," Jake said slowly. "I am Captain Jake Morrison. You are safe now." The alien tilted its head and made some clicking sounds. Then it touched a small device on its chest. Suddenly it spoke in perfect English. "I am Kethmore, captain of the vessel Dawn's Hope. You saved us from death. Why did you help us?" Jake was surprised by the question. "Because you needed help. That's what we do." Kethmore's eyes grew even larger. "Your people help strangers without asking for payment?" "Of course. Wouldn't you do the same?" "My people would, yes, but most species in the galaxy do not. We are Zalari. Our home world was destroyed by the Vorthan Empire 3 months ago. They hunt us now, trying to kill all Zalari everywhere. Lisa stepped forward. How many of your people are left? Not many. Maybe a few thousand spread across the galaxy. We were trying to reach a safe place when the Vorthons found us. Dr. Walsh had been listening to everything. Captain, his friends are getting better. They should wake up soon. Jake made a decision. Kethmore, we will help fix your ship. We will also give you supplies and escort you to safety. You would do this for us? But you do not know us. We know enough. You're in trouble and you need help. That's all that matters. Over the next week, the human crew worked day and night to repair the Zalari ship. Engineer Carlos Ruiz figured out how their systems worked and fixed the engines. The damage was worse than they first thought, but Carlos was very good at his job. The other two Zalari, named Vethkol and Zin Ara, woke up and were amazed by human kindness. They had never seen aliens work so hard to help strangers. Your species is very unusual, Vethkol told Jake one day. Most races only help their own kind. That seems like a lonely way to live, Jake replied. When the repairs were finished, Jake ordered his crew to give the Zalari extra food, medical supplies, and fuel. Some of his officers worried they were giving away too much, but Jake did not care. Captain Morrison, Kethmore said on the day they were leaving, I must perform a ceremony before we go. All three Zalari stood in front of Jake and his senior officers. Kethmore spoke in his own language while touching Jake's forehead with one of his 4 hands. The other Zalari did the same with Lisa, Peter, and the rest of the crew. What does this mean? Jake asked. You are now Nest friends. This is the highest honor my people can give. It means we will remember your kindness forever. If you ever need help, any Zalari anywhere will come to your aid. We mark you as family. The Zalari ship left the next day, heading toward a distant system where they hoped to find safety. Jake watched them go and felt good about what his crew had done. Do you think we'll ever see them again, Captain? Lisa asked. Probably not. Space is a big place, but I'm glad we could help them. Jake had no idea that this simple act of kindness would one day save all of humanity. The universe had a way of remembering good deeds, and the Zalari never forgot their friends. 25 years had passed since Captain Jake Morrison met the Zalari. Jake was now an old man, retired and living on Earth. The galaxy had changed a lot during those years. Humans had built more colonies and met many new alien races. Some were friendly, others were not. Admiral Danny Cooper stood in the command center on Luna Station, looking at reports that made his stomach hurt. Danny had been in the Earth Defense Force for 20 years. He had fought pirates and defended colonies, but he had never seen anything like this. How many ships do they have? He asked his intelligence officer, Captain Amy Foster, who used to serve with Jake Morrison, was now in charge of gathering information about alien threats. She had been promoted many times over the years. Our best guess is over 2,000 ships, Admiral. Maybe more. And how many do we have? 400, sir. Maybe 500 if we count the old ships. Danny closed his eyes. The numbers were terrible. The Hegemony Coalition had declared war on humanity, and Earth was going to lose badly. The Coalition was made up of 5 powerful alien races. They had been the strongest powers in the galaxy for hundreds of years. The Nexari had the best weapons, the Corvani had the fastest ships, the Thuvarians were the smartest, the Malthari were the toughest fighters, and the Zelkons controlled the most territory. President Kate Sullivan was trying to find a peaceful solution, but Danny knew it was hopeless. The Coalition had already made up their minds. They wanted humanity gone. "Admiral, we're getting another message from the Coalition," said Communications Officer Roy Bennett. Roy was older now, with gray hair, but he still did his job well. "Put it on the main screen." The face of Admiral Vexathala appeared. He was a Nexari, with blue skin and cold yellow eyes. Danny had seen him before during peace talks. Vexathala had always looked at humans like they were insects. "Admiral Cooper, this is your final warning. All human ships must return to the Sol system within 72 hours. Any human vessel found outside your home system after that time will be destroyed. Any human colony that refuses to evacuate will be bombed from orbit." Danny stepped forward. "Admiral Vexathala, surely we can work something out. Humanity has never attacked Coalition worlds. We've always tried to be peaceful neighbors." "That is exactly the problem, human. Your species is too unpredictable. You help enemies, you interfere in conflicts that do not concern you, and you form alliances with inferior races. You are a threat to galactic stability." "How is helping people a threat?" "Because you do not follow the natural order. Strong species should rule, weak species should serve. Your people treat all races as equals. This is dangerous thinking that must be stopped." The transmission ended. Danny looked around the command center at his officers. They all knew what this meant. The Coalition was not just talking about conquest. They wanted to wipe out humanity completely. Captain Susan Wright entered the command center. She was in charge of the evacuation fleets. Susan had been working without sleep for 3 days, trying to organize the retreat from human colonies. "Admiral, we've got a problem. The colonies on Kepler 442 and Gliese 6667c are refusing to evacuate. They say they'd rather fight than abandon their homes." "How many people are we talking about?" "About 50,000 on each world, sir." Danny felt sick. Those people were going to die, and there was nothing he could do to save them. Earth's fleet was not strong enough to protect them. Dr. Helen Parker, who was now in charge of civilian evacuation, came up to Danny. She had spent years helping sick aliens all over the galaxy. Now she was trying to save her own people. "Admiral, the refugee ships are almost full. We've got 3 million people trying to get back to Earth, but we don't have enough transport ships. What about asking other races for help?" Helen shook her head. "I've tried. The Coalition has told everyone that helping humans will be considered an act of war. Nobody wants to risk it." Captain Greg Miller walked over from the tactical station. He was one of Earth's best ship commanders and had saved thousands of lives over the years. Now his face was pale with worry. "Admiral, I've been studying the Coalition fleet movements. They're not just planning to force us back to Earth. They're surrounding the entire Sol system." "What do you mean?" "I mean they're going to blockade us completely. No ships in, no ships out. They want to trap us here and slowly starve us to death." Amy Foster pulled up a holographic map of the galaxy. Red dots showed Coalition fleets moving into position around human space. There were so many red dots that the map looked like it was covered in blood. "They've been planning this for months," Amy said. "Maybe years. Every major trade route is being cut off. Every human colony is being isolated. This isn't just a war, Admiral. It's genocide." Danny studied the map. Even if Earth's fleet fought perfectly, they could not win. The Coalition had too many ships and better technology, but that did not mean they should give up without trying. "Send a message to all Earth Defense Force ships," Danny ordered. "Tell them to return to Sol system immediately. We're going to make our stand here." Captain Mary Johnson, who commanded the patrol fleet, looked worried. "Sir, what about the colonies that can't evacuate in time?" "We can't save them, Mary." I wish we could, but we don't have enough ships. Our only chance is to defend Earth itself. The next few days were chaos. Human ships from all over the galaxy came racing back to Earth. Civilian transports packed with refugees arrived every few hours. The orbital stations around Earth were crowded with scared families who had lost their homes. General Sam Davis, who was in charge of Earth's ground defenses, met with Danny to discuss their options. "How long can we hold out?" Danny asked. "If they just try to blockade us, maybe a year. If they attack directly, maybe a few weeks. Our weapons are good, but theirs are better." Commander Nick Roberts, who was in charge of supply logistics, had even worse news. "Admiral, we're already running low on military supplies. If this drags on, we'll run out of ammunition for the big guns." President Sullivan called an emergency meeting with all the military leaders. She looked older than her 50 years, with worry lines around her eyes. "Gentlemen, ladies, I need to know the truth. Can we win this war?" Danny looked around the room at the other officers. They all knew the answer, but nobody wanted to say it. "No, Madam President. We cannot win. The coalition has too many advantages." "Then what do you suggest?" "We fight anyway. We make them pay for every ship they lose. Maybe if we hurt them badly enough, they'll decide it's not worth it." President Sullivan nodded slowly. "Then that's what we'll do. Send a message to the coalition. Tell them that humanity will not surrender. If they want to destroy us, they'll have to come and take us." The message was sent, and Admiral Vexathala's reply came back quickly. "So be it, humans. Your species will be remembered as the race that chose extinction over wisdom." Danny stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Freedom's Call, and watched. The coalition fleets gathering at the edge of the Sol system. There were so many enemy ships that they blocked out the stars. In 72 hours, the attack would begin. Humanity was about to face its darkest hour, and there seemed to be no hope of survival. Far from Earth, in a hidden asteroid base near the Vega system, Kethmore received the message that would change everything. The old Zalari leader was now ancient by his people's standards. His once green skin faded to a pale gray, but his eyes still burned with fierce intelligence. The message had come through secret channels that most species did not even know existed. It was from a Thuvarian trader who owed his life to a human medical team 5 years ago. The news was simple but terrible. The coalition was going to destroy humanity. Kethmore called together the Council of Survivors, the secret group that led what remained of the Zalari people. There were only 12 of them left, scattered across the galaxy in hidden bases and refugee ships. "Nest friends are in danger," Kethmore announced. The words sent a shock through the council. Every Zalari knew what nest friends meant. It was the most sacred bond their people could make. Veth Cole was now an elder too, her 4 arms moving slowly as she spoke. "How many humans are there?" "Billions," replied Zinara, who had become their best spy over the years. "They have spread to hundreds of worlds since we last saw them." "And how many ships do we have?" 47 that can fight. Maybe 60 if we count the old cargo ships." The council was quiet. 47 ships against the entire coalition fleet was hopeless. Even with 60 ships, they would be destroyed quickly. But Kethmore stood up slowly, his old body shaking with emotion. "It does not matter how many ships we have. The humans saved us when they could have left us to die. They gave us supplies when they needed them for themselves. They escorted us to safety when it put them in danger. We are nest friends, and nest friends do not abandon each other." "But we cannot save them," Vethicol said sadly. We are too few. Then we die with them. Send the call to every Zalari in the galaxy. Tell them the nest friends need us. While the Zalari were making their decision, something else was happening across the galaxy. Word of humanity's danger was spreading through networks that the Coalition did not know about. On the water world of Aquatica, the Delphinian Council met in their underwater city. These alien creatures looked like dolphins, but had hands and could build technology. Their leader, flow singer Coral Dream, had called an emergency meeting. The humans face extinction, she announced to the council. The same humans who shared their water with us during the Great Drought of 2381. Elder Deep Current remembered that day well. Captain Mary Johnson's crew gave us half their water supplies. They nearly died of thirst themselves to save our children. How many ships can we gather? Asked Wave Rider Stormdance. 300, maybe more. Our ships are small but fast. The Coalition will destroy us easily. Perhaps, but the humans did not think about easy or hard when they helped us. They thought about right and wrong. In the crystal caves of Nethri Prime, the rock-like Nethri were having a similar conversation. These beings looked like walking gemstones and communicated by changing the colors of their bodies. Engineer Brightstone flashed red with anger as he spoke to the Council of Facets. The Coalition thinks we are just rocks that cannot fight. They ignore us completely. What does this have to do with the humans? Asked Elder Clear Crystal. Remember the colony ship Harmony's Hope? When our engines failed near the black hole, who saved us? The human engineer Carlos Ruiz worked for 6 days without sleep to fix our quantum drives. He saved 8,000 Nethri lives. The council chamber filled with flashing lights as the Nethri discussed this. Their ships were small, but they had weapons that could disrupt enemy shields. We have 120 ships that can fight, announced War Leader Sharp Edge. Not many, but our quantum disruptors work well against Coalition armor. The humans saved us once. Now we save them. Similar conversations were happening all over the galaxy. Species that the great powers ignored or forgot were remembering acts of human kindness. The insect-like Skitari remembered when human doctors stopped a plague on their home world. The floating gas creatures called nebulons remembered when human ships rescued them from solar storms. The tiny Pixari, who were only 3 feet tall, remembered when humans helped them fight off raiders who wanted to enslave them. Even individual aliens were making the same choice. A Corvani captain named Tekvar had deserted from the Coalition fleet. His own people now hunted him as a traitor, but he did not care. He remembered the human traitor who had saved his daughter's life. A group of Malthari pirates led by someone called Scarfist had received the news too. Scarfist owed his freedom to Captain Roy Bennett, who had refused to turn him over to Malthari authorities years ago. Now Scarfist was gathering every pirate ship he could find. On the industrial world of Forge Prime, the mechanical constructors were building something in secret. These robot-like beings rarely got involved in galactic politics, but they remembered when human engineers had helped them rebuild after a meteor strike. Dr. Helen Parker probably never knew that her medical missions had touched so many lives. She had spent years traveling to distant worlds, helping anyone who was sick or injured. She never asked what species they were or if they could pay. She just helped because it was the right thing to do. Now creatures she had saved were preparing to return that kindness. The word spread through smuggler networks, refugee camps, and hidden colonies. Species that had been scattered, conquered, or forgotten were talking to each other for the first time in decades. Most of them had never worked together before. The Delphinians lived in water, The Nethri lived on airless rocks, and the Skitari lived in hot desert worlds. They had different languages, different customs, and different technologies. But they all remembered human kindness. A Pixari spy named Tiny Wings managed to get a message to Earth, but it was coded so the Coalition could not understand it. The message reached Amy Foster, who had learned to speak Pixari years ago. "Admiral Cooper," Amy said, running into the command center with excitement. "I think we might have some friends coming." "What do you mean?" "The message is from species we helped over the years. They're saying they remember us." Danny looked confused. "Remember us how?" "Remember our kindness, sir. And they're coming to help." "How many ships are we talking about?" Amy looked at her notes. "I'm not sure, sir. The message mentions dozens of different species, but most of them only have small fleets." "Every ship helps, Amy. Send a reply. Tell them we're grateful for any help they can give." But Amy's message never reached its destination. The Coalition was now jamming all communications to and from Earth. Whatever help was coming would have to find them on its own. Admiral Vexthala was confident that his plan was working perfectly. The humans were trapped in their home system, with no allies and no hope of escape. Soon, the greatest threat to galactic order would be eliminated forever. He had no idea that across the galaxy, thousands of small ships were moving toward Earth. Most of them had old weapons and weak shields. Many of them were cargo ships or passenger transports that had been converted for fighting, but they were coming anyway because they remembered what it felt like to be helped when they needed it most. The ripple effect had begun, and soon it would become a wave that would shake the entire galaxy. Admiral Danny Cooper stood on the bridge of Freedom's Call and watched the Coalition fleet gather at the edge of the Sol system. 2,000 enemy ships hung in space like a wall of death, their weapons pointed at Earth. In a few hours, the attack would begin. "Admiral, we're picking up something strange on long-range sensors," said Captain Amy Foster from her station. She was studying her screens with a confused look on her face. "What kind of strange?" "Ships appearing at the edge of the system, sir, but they're not Coalition vessels." Danny walked over to look at Amy's display. "How many ships?" "I count maybe 50 so far, but more keep appearing. Their designs don't match anything in our database." Commander Lisa Brooks, who was now Danny's second-in-command, joined them at the sensor station. "Could they be more Coalition reinforcements?" "I don't think so, sir. These ships are much smaller than Coalition vessels, and they're not in any kind of military formation." Suddenly, the communications board lit up with incoming signals. Roy Bennett, who was still handling communications after all these years, looked shocked at his display. "Admiral, we're getting transmissions from the unknown ships. They're broadcasting in dozens of different languages. Can you translate any of them?" Roy worked at his station for a few minutes, running the signals through the computer's language database. "Sir, I think you need to hear this." The main speakers crackled to life, and a familiar clicking voice filled the bridge. Danny recognized it immediately as Zalari speech, even though he had not heard it in 25 years. "This is Kethmore of the Zalari Survivor Fleet calling Captain Jake Morrison. We have not forgotten our debt to the Nest friends. We stand ready to honor our promise." Danny felt his heart skip a beat. "Can you reply to them, Roy?" "Yes, sir." "Tell them that Captain Morrison is retired, but Admiral Cooper remembers them well. Tell them we are grateful they came." More voices filled the bridge as Roy switched between different channels. Each one was in a different alien language, but the message was always the same. They had come to help humanity. Dr. Helen Parker, who was now in charge of alien relations, came running onto the bridge. "Admiral, do you know what's happening out there? It looks like we have some friends arriving." "It's more than some friends, sir. I'm recognizing species that I helped during my medical missions. The Skitari are out there, and the Nebulons, and at least a dozen others," Captain Susan Wright called from the tactical station. "Admiral, the unknown fleet is growing fast. I count over 300 ships now." "Any sign that they're hostile?" "No, sir. They're keeping their distance from the Coalition fleet, but they're positioning themselves between the enemy and Earth." Admiral Vexathala was not pleased with this development. He opened a channel to the unknown ships, and his angry voice boomed across space. "Attention, unknown vessels. You are interfering in Coalition justice. Withdraw immediately or be destroyed, along with the humans." The reply came from Kethmore, his old voice strong despite his age. "I am Kethmore of the Zalari. These humans are our nest friends, marked by sacred ceremony. We will not abandon them." "You are insects, old one. My fleet will crush you in minutes." But before Kethmore could reply, other voices joined the conversation. Captain Greg Miller, who was monitoring the communications, looked amazed as dozens of different species began speaking. "This is Flowsinger Coral Dream of the Delphinian Defense Fleet. The humans shared their water with us when our children were dying. We remember." War Leader Sharp Edge of the Nethri Battle Group reporting. "Human engineer Carlos Ruiz saved 8,000 of our people. The debt will be repaid. Scarfist of the Free Pirate Alliance here. Captain Roy Bennett gave me my freedom. Now I return the favor." The voices kept coming. Species that most galactic citizens had never heard of were announcing their presence and their loyalty to humanity. Admiral Vexathala's confident expression began to change as he realized what was happening. "How many ships are out there now?" Danny asked Captain Wright. "Over 800, sir, and still growing. I'm seeing designs I've never encountered before." "What? About weapons and shields?" "Most of them are lightly armed, but there are so many of them. And Admiral, some of these species have very unusual technology." As if to prove her point, space around the Coalition fleet suddenly lit up with strange energy discharges. The Nethri ships had fired their quantum disruptors, causing the shields on several Coalition vessels to flicker and fail. "What was that?" demanded Admiral Vexthala over the communications channel. Sharp Edge's crystalline voice was full of satisfaction. "Coalition ships have strong shields but weak quantum matrices. We know how to exploit that weakness." More surprises followed. The Delphinian ships suddenly vanished from sensors, using stealth technology that even the Coalition did not possess. The tiny Pixari fighters were so small that the enemy's big guns could not target them properly. Captain Mary Johnson, who commanded one of Earth's patrol squadrons, couldn't believe what she was seeing. "Admiral, there are over 1,000 alien ships out there now. How is this possible?" Danny was wondering the same thing. In all his years of military service, he had never seen so many different species working together. The answer came from an unexpected source. Engineer Carlos Ruiz, who was now an old man but still served as a technical advisor, had been studying the alien ship designs. "Admiral, I think I understand what's happening. Most of these species are refugees, colonists, or survivors of disasters. They're people we helped over the years without thinking about it." "You mean all those rescue missions and medical aid programs?" "Exactly, sir. Every time we helped someone, they remembered. Now they're all coming to return the favor." "Captain." Rick Stone, who commanded the defense platform around Mars, sent an urgent message. "Admiral, you need to see this. The alien fleet isn't just getting bigger, it's getting organized." Danny switched his main screen to show the tactical display. What he saw made him gasp. The chaotic collection of alien ships was forming into battle groups, with each species taking positions that matched their abilities. The fast Delphinian ships were forming a skirmish line. The tough Skitari vessels were taking defensive positions. The small Pixari fighters were clustering around. Larger ships for protection. Somehow, without any central command, they were creating a battle formation. "Who's organizing them?" Lisa asked. "I think they're organizing themselves," Danny replied. "They all want to help, so they're figuring out the best way to do it." More ships kept arriving. Some came alone, others in small groups. There were Malthari pirates, Corvani deserters, even a few Thuvarian merchants who had painted their cargo ships with weapons. Constructor robots arrived in geometric formations, their mechanical voices announcing that they had brought gifts for the humans who helped rebuild our cities. Each new arrival made Admiral Vexathala angrier. He had expected to face a few hundred human ships. Instead, he was looking at the largest combined fleet in galactic history. "This is impossible," he transmitted to his own fleet commanders. "Where did all these inferior species get so many ships?" "Perhaps they are not as inferior as we believed," replied one of his captains. Vexathala silenced that captain immediately. The Coalition had always believed that only the strongest species deserved to rule the galaxy. The idea that lesser races could threaten them was unthinkable. But the numbers did not lie. There were now over 1,500 alien ships facing the Coalition fleet, and more were still arriving. Danny opened a channel to all the ships that had come to help humanity. "This is Admiral Cooper of the Earth Defense Force. I want to thank every species that has answered our call for help. We are honored by your friendship." Kethmore's voice replied for all of them. "Admiral Cooper, we are the ones who are honored. Your people showed us that strength is not about having the biggest weapons or the most ships. True strength comes from helping others when they need it most. And now," added Scarfist, "it is time to show the Coalition what happens when you threaten our friends." The alien fleet began moving forward, no longer just defending but preparing to attack. Admiral Vexathala realized that his easy victory had just become the fight of his life. "All Coalition ships, prepare for battle," he commanded. "We will crush these insects and the humans together." But for the first time in his career, Admiral Vexathala was not sure he could win. The battle began at dawn on Earth, though in space there was no real dawn or night. Admiral Vexathala had finally lost patience with the growing alien fleet and ordered his ships to attack. 2,000 Coalition vessels moved forward in perfect formation, their weapons charging and shields at maximum power. They had fought many battles and won them all. This should have been no different. But Admiral Danny Cooper and his alien allies were ready for them. "All ships, this is Cooper," Danny broadcast to the massive combined fleet. "Today we fight not just for humanity, but for the idea that helping others matters. Show them what friendship can do." The first surprise came from the Nethri. Their quantum disruptors fired in perfect coordination, hitting the Coalition's front line simultaneously. Dozens of enemy shields flickered and died, leaving the ships vulnerable. Immediately, the Delphinian ships appeared from nowhere, using their stealth technology to get close before firing. Their weapons were not powerful, but they hit the unshielded Coalition vessels with deadly accuracy. "Impossible!" Admiral Vexathala snarled as he watched his formation begin to break apart. "How are these inferior species coordinating so well?" The answer became clear as the battle continued. Each alien species was doing what they did best, but they were working together like they had trained for years. Captain Joe Harris led his human fighter squadron alongside Zalari swarm ships. The Zalari pilots, with their 4 arms, could control their ships in ways humans could not. But the humans were better at improvising when plans went wrong. "Follow my lead," Joe called to his Zalari wingmate, whose name was Corthane. Together, they dove toward a coalition cruiser, dodging enemy fire with moves that neither species could have managed alone. The coalition had better technology, but they had never fought an enemy like this. Their battle computers were programmed to fight other organized fleets, not a chaotic mix of different species using completely different tactics. The tiny Pixari fighters swarmed around the big coalition ships like angry bees. Their weapons could barely scratch the enemy armor, but there were hundreds of them, and they were almost impossible to hit. Captain Susan Wright watched from her command ship as the battle developed. "Admiral, the enemy is having trouble adapting to our tactics." "That's because we don't have tactics," Danny replied. "We have something better. We have trust." He was right. The alien species were not following any central battle plan. Instead, they were reacting to each other naturally, like old friends who knew each other's strengths and weaknesses. When the Skitarii heavy ships got surrounded by enemy vessels, the fast Delphinian ships appeared to rescue them. When the Delphinians ran low on ammunition, the constructor robots shared their supplies. Every time one species got in trouble, others came to help. Admiral Vexithala tried to use his fleet's superior firepower to break the enemy formation, but there was no formation to break. The Allied fleet moved like a living thing, constantly changing and adapting. "Concentrate fire on the human ships," he ordered. "Destroy their command structure." But when coalition ships targeted Earth's vessels, the aliens moved to protect them. Kethmore's ship took a direct hit, meant for Danny's flagship. The old Zalari captain was wounded, but still fighting. "Nest friends, do not fight alone," Kethmore transmitted, his voice weak but determined. Engineer Betty Collins was working frantically to keep the mixed fleet supplied with ammunition and repairs. She had never seen so many different types of technology, but somehow she was making it all work together. "Admiral, the constructor robots are sharing their repair drones with everyone," she reported, "and the Nethri are letting other species use their shield generators." Captain Nick Roberts was coordinating supply runs between the different ships. "Sir, I've got Malthari pirates delivering medical supplies to Delphinian vessels and Skitarii ships sharing their armor plating with human fighters. I've never seen anything like this." The coalition fleet was starting to take serious damage. Their perfect formations were useless against an enemy that refused to fight by the rules. Every time they tried to focus their fire, the aliens scattered and regrouped somewhere else. More importantly, the coalition was learning that their enemy would never give up. When a Pixari fighter was damaged, its pilot would ram the nearest coalition ship. When a Delphinian vessel lost its weapons, it would use itself as a shield to protect others. "They fight like madmen," complained one coalition captain. "No," replied his second in command. "They fight like people protecting their family." The tide of battle turned when Captain Greg Miller discovered something important about the coalition flagship. "Admiral, Vexithala's ship has a weakness in its rear shields. If we can get behind it—" "Can't be done," replied Captain Mary Johnson. "There are too many enemy ships protecting it." But Scarfist and his pirates had been listening to the conversation. "Leave that to us humans. We know how to cause trouble." The Malthari pirates charged straight at the coalition flagship, drawing enemy fire away from the rear. At the same time, a group of Zalari fighters used their swarm tactics to confuse the enemy sensors. Captain Miller led a strike force of human and alien ships through the gap created by the pirates. They hit the Coalition flagship's weak shields with everything they had. Admiral Vexithala's ship shuddered under the impact. "Damage report!" Shields failing, engines damaged, weapons offline. For the first time in the battle, Vexithala looked worried. His perfect fleet was being torn apart by creatures he had dismissed as insects and primitives. "Sir, we're getting reports from across the fleet," his communications officer said. "Ships are requesting permission to retreat." Retreat? The Coalition does not retreat. But as Vexthala watched his fleet being destroyed by the combined alien force, he realized that pride would not save his ships. "All vessels withdraw to safe distance," he finally ordered. The Coalition fleet began pulling back, but the aliens did not let them go easily. They followed, striking at any ship that moved too slowly. Admiral Danny Cooper could hardly believe what he was seeing. The most powerful military force in the galaxy was running away from a collection of refugees, pirates, and forgotten species. "Should we pursue them, Admiral?" asked Captain Wright. "No. Let them go. We've made our point." As the Coalition ships disappeared into hyperspace, the alien fleet began celebrating. Ships from dozens of different species filled the communications channels with victory songs in languages Danny had never heard. But the celebration was interrupted by Admiral Vexithala's final transmission. "This is not over, humans. The Coalition will return with more ships." Kethmore's voice answered for all of them. "And we will be waiting, Admiral. You see, you made one mistake today. You thought you were fighting humans and their allies. But you were actually fighting everyone the humans have ever helped. And Admiral, that is a very long list." The old Zalari was right. Word of the battle spread quickly across the galaxy. Species that had not participated began asking themselves whose side they would choose if the Coalition came back. Many of them remembered human kindness, too. President Kate Sullivan stood before the representatives of 47 different species who had fought to save humanity. The meeting was being held on Earth, in the same building where humans had once signed their first peace treaties centuries ago. "Friends," she began, "today we learned something important about the galaxy. We learned that kindness is not weakness, and that helping others is not foolish. We learned that when you treat people with respect and compassion, they remember." Elder Deep Current of the Delphinians spoke for many when he replied, "President Sullivan, your people taught us that the strongest bonds are not made with threats or force, but with friendship freely given. In the months that followed, something unprecedented happened in galactic politics. The species that had fought together began working together in other ways. They shared technology, established trade routes, and formed mutual defense pacts. They called it the Friendship Alliance, and it grew larger every day as more species chose cooperation over conquest. The Coalition still existed, but they were no longer the dominant power in the galaxy. They had learned that ruling through fear only worked until someone offered a better alternative. And the humans, who had started it all with simple acts of kindness, found themselves at the center of the galaxy's first truly peaceful confederation. Admiral Danny Cooper, now promoted to Fleet Admiral, looked out at the mixed fleet of human and alien ships patrolling Earth's space. Children from dozens of different species played together on the stations, learning each other's languages and customs. "You know," he said to his old friend Amy Foster, "Jake Morrison probably never imagined that saving 3 Zalari refugees would lead to all this." Amy smiled. "I think he would be proud." He always said that helping people was just the right thing to do. And it turns out that doing the right thing is also the smart thing to do. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. People remember kindness, and they repay it in fierce, unexpected ways when it matters most.